Then, and you're over 2 decades in China. Which year or what event would you say was a milestone in China's role change in the trade body or international market?
Well, in terms of the WTO, I mean, China acceded to the WTO in 2001, December 11th, and there was a lot of fanfare at that time. But it didn't just happen overnight. The changes that were to take place were based on a commitment, an accession period of 5 years that China signed up to. And so for me, probably the most important milestone in China's WTO history after joining the WTO was a review of that 5-year accession period. I had just started working at the European Chamber at that time, and one of my first responsibilities was to draft a position and a statement on what we as an organization thought of China's accession process. And perhaps more interesting is the fact that the European Chamber as a body was created, in fact, specifically to monitor China's accession period. Pascal Lamy is a former Director General of the WTO, but before that he was actually the European Union Trade Commissioner, and he was part of the negotiations for China's accession, and as a part of that he would visit China and he would meet with companies. And because this was a bilateral agreement that had to take place between the EU and China, as a part of the overall multilateral agreement, he wanted to meet with European companies. He said, I don't want to meet with just French or German. This is a deal with EU and China. I want to meet with European companies. And for that, he felt there was a need for a European chamber. And so businesses responded to this request that he had. And here we are as the European Chamber, also 20 years later. So there's a very strong link between the two.
Yeah. I didn't know about that story, but when you draft your first review, do you remember what's the breaking point or the starting point you would write or you wrote in your review at that time? Was it difficult?
It was. I mean, like with everything that we do, we go to our members and we ask them for their perspectives and their experiences. But overall, it was a time to celebrate. We congratulated China, and our overall view was that China met and delivered, and sometimes even earlier than expected, on the majority of its obligations. Of course, there were a number of issues that were still outstanding, such as transparency and IPR issues at that time, and are still issues today. But overall, given the starting point of where we were in the relationship, that 5-year period, I think can be described as a success, and I think the trade statistics during that period show that as well.